This always... Maybe. GitHub organizations, get 13. Can everyone hear me again? Am I back? Woohoo! Okay, so I genuinely have no idea what happened there. There was a hard stop on my network connection. It just upped and went away. I don't know what happened. I've also seemed to have lost Rob on OBS, so I don't know where he's gone either. He is here. He is here. I mean, I'm talking to Rob on Skype, but you can't see or hear him. It's almost as though the NDI feed is no longer coming through. So bear with me while I try and fix that. Rob, I might drop the Skype conversation and restart it now that we started OBS. So I'm going to hang up on you and start the call again. So let me try that, and then let's start this again and see if it comes through. I should put his image up there, you're right. So let's do this. There's Rob up there, look. We can see him again. So I've got Rob back on Skype, and I'm going to go over here and see if I can... Oh, here he is. I see him now. Okay, so let's do this. And then let's put his guest picture off. And there he is again. Say hi, Rob.
Hi, Rob.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can someone say if they can hear Rob or not? That would be good.
Gary has a green head. Something on the screen here.
That's just my bald head. I should probably fix that. I'm going to do that as well. Hold on. This works back there. Right. So, yeah, that's certainly been discussed. It's Aaron, isn't it? A Kubla. That's Aaron, isn't it, Rob? I think it's Aaron. Yeah. That's certainly been discussed. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. But that's not really a topic of the stream that we were discussing tonight. So again, apologies for that. I don't know what happened. There was a hard stop of my network connection, and I had to reboot my machine to get my wireless back up and running. So I am back up and running, so we can continue where we left off. So where was that? I've completely forgotten.
So we were getting into looking at the code for the export command. We were just coming down into the help message. One of the things I noticed is you did add in the Xcodes,
yep,
which I thought was great. I was going to ask that you do that. If you hadn't, so it would have been a case for that whole rebasing thing. But you already took care of that behind the scenes before we got in here. So that is good there. And so, just for Manfred, I'm going to say chocolatey, just so he has that. So we could put a whole bunch of them in a sentence, but that's as far as we're going to go. So chocolatey's good for you. So it's right next in the food group. It's right next to the other stuff. So chocolatey.
Aaron's also asking if this was the session where we were going to be promoting Chocolatey to the 1.0 release. I think that's next week. I don't think it's this week.
That's awesome. So we've had people request that Chocolatey should go to a 1.0 release because it's pretty stable, and there's some other things there. It's just go 1.0 because those breaking changes, it's a lot easier to see them. We just at this point, there's a couple of things that I really wanted in before we went to version 1. One of those is package indexes and to be on the next version of NuGet. It needs to be 3. I feel a lot comfortable with those things. But maybe that's Chocolatey version 2. So there is a possibility this year we could see a V1. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know what the little ones are, but...
So the little one. So currently, Manfred and Maurice are currently having a bit competition at this point. So they're giving me cheers, which translates to me getting some revenue at some point through, because I got made a Twitch affiliate. So as a Twitch affiliate, I can receive bits, cheers from people that are on the stream, and also subscriptions. So I'm very grateful to both Manfred and Maurice for all of these cheers that are coming through just now. You can so as a subscriber to Twitch, you can buy bits. So each one of those is a bit, and then you can cheer to a person on a stream by using a command in Twitch. Or like I say, you can subscribe to a channel. Subscribing to a channel removes the ads from the channel. So when you connected to Twitch initially on my channel, you would have had an ad for something pop up. As a subscriber, you can remove that ad, and so that's what's going on here. Because there's currently a competition. So if I do,
I have no bits.
If I go up here and go to twitch.get13. You'll get Twitch Inception at this point, so you'll get a feed within a feed within a feed within a feed. But Manfred and
is that going to break ours?
No, shouldn't do. Manfred and Maurice are currently fighting for who's in the top slot in this top right up here. So even I get ads on my own channel. Look, so Maurice is currently at 225 and. So there's backward and forward at the minute as to who's the top of this leaderboard. So there's I'm not getting involved in that competition, but I do appreciate what they're doing. So that's what's going on in the chat room.
Perfect.
Anyway.
Okay. No, that's cool. I get that now. All right, so we're getting down here, and I actually went up a little bit to look at the help message and to look at the examples section. Right, so we see Choco. Export, and then we see a couple of other examples in there. One of those is showing us how we could pass the output file path. And one of the things that I see there is I'm going to add a comment, and I don't know if that pops up. It's thinking just as fast. It doesn't look like it. So right in there, I'll just say no. Actually, for best practice, we should show it with the apostrophe as well. So you get the double quotes. Bookcasing, the apostrophes, that's typically how we like to see that.
Yeah, good point.
So I'm just mentioning that there. I know the double quotes that are there. When it actually prints out on the command line, it's just going to see a single double quote on each side, because we're using not a literal, but what is that called? I always forget. The at symbol sitting in front of that string value.
That's our string literal, isn't it? Yeah, no, I think it is. Yeah.
Is it called string literal?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you can. I think string literals in other languages. I think I can still I can't pass variables into literal strings, but in here in C#, of course you can. So always an interesting thing. It looks like you got an earned brew off of that one.
I did.
Gary has those in this country. Needs to be passing those out to other people.
But no, you're right. When it prints it out to the command line, obviously, there's only a single quote. But yes, so the inner single quotes would make sense as well. Yeah, and I think that's covered in this note that I added to the help, which was C scripting and best practices in the top level Choco help command as well. So yeah, it makes sense to include it here too. I can do that.
Yeah. So then we get into our next section here. Which is the actual code for when we run this. And so in here, we were doing a fault tolerance, which is something in the Chocolatey framework. It has a try-catch with the loginnet exception. So as we get to the bottom, we have a base error message that we can pass back, and should we throw an error or a warning at that point, right? And so that is just wrapping that entire bit of work that we're doing with a nice ability to, and this is an action, right? Ability to give out that really detailed message if we're in like a debug or a verbose type of log. or just a real high-level error, right? So as we come back into the actual code here, it looks like we are pulling up an actual XML writer and start writing this out. My immediate question here is how do we test this without actually writing to the code, to a file? And so typically what I like to see is some sort of interface that we're writing to, and we slap an XML writer on top of that, right? And we do have some things to do XML writing out to files where we just remodel those things, and then we can export it and it can convert it for us nicely, right? So I believe from the original we were just looking for the simplest thing, right? That could work.
Yep.
This is where I would come back in. What's that?
No, absolutely. So I mean, in the stream, it was just a case of getting things working. So I think I meant to come back and fix this, but I haven't. So no, absolutely. And
so I think it's called, GitHub Chocolatey, I think it's called XML something, or iXML service. Let's see, XML service. So there is a service in there called XML service. It has serialize and deserialize, which would do a lot of this work if we just bring those to a type. So as we read them in, we create a type off of that. Then we can take that whole thing and serialize it down to a file. And it should come out in the same format.
Yep.
The only trick in there is that export, including version numbers, and how well that would work out.
How so? Sorry, I missed that last bit.
So the part in there where we have that export command, we're looking to see if we have that before we write the attribute for version. I think that we can do something with that where we
I see what you're saying.
look to see if it has any information in it, and then decide to write that. What I might like additionally in the export command as we go to do this a little further is to make it really easy to include other pieces of things like I may have passed in some package parameters, right? I want to be able to get those in there. Of course, you need being able to call packages.config with package parameters to work appropriately, but being able to put that stuff in there too.
So that came up. That was mentioned by Richard Simpson, Richie Coder 1, on the PR that I created, and he asked for that specific functionality. Now, we spoke about that briefly before, because as of right now, a packages.config file, if you kind of handcraft it, can include some additional attributes on the package node to allow you to add in arguments, if you like, to the install command. But I think what we spoke around was the potential for restructuring how that works into a single attribute that contains all of the arguments, as opposed to individual attributes as it's currently written. So that's kind of why I've held off of not doing that work in this PR, because there would be some upstream work in Chocolatey itself in the install command to support that single attribute rather than those multiple attributes. So I feel you were typing something there.
Was. That is at line 128. So that's right when we new up or construct that XML writer. And so this is just really asking, could this be refactored into iXML service?
Yep.
Right. Because iXML service already does a lot of things that is working with XML. It feels like that's kind of going back to one of the paradigms we use when we do development is called solid, right? The first is an S, and that's a single responsibility. And so this is great for getting that item from the user and what they want to do, plugging that into some of these other things, letting them do what they do, and then kind of putting that out, right? So that's where the commands kind of lean into not doing a lot of work. They just kind of parse things, pass that into something else that actually might be doing that work, and then produce something out of that. And so we're building that configuration to pass that on. And so that's where I see this. We'd start doing that and pushing that over. So
yep, no, that makes sense.
Typing from the future.
So here, it literally said 11 seconds from now. So it was in the past that came through. So it was bizarre.
That's awesome. Yes, I come from the future. We come from France.
So that's a good.
Seen that movie.
I don't actually know what time zone this VM's in, but that's not my time just now, so I don't know what's going on there. But no, sorry.
You're like an hour. That would be like California time, maybe.
I don't know what time zone
I'm at 3 or 15:45.
Strange. So. But also that refactoring needs to happen there. I think that makes sense. And like I say, as I said to Richie in the pull request itself, I think we need some additional follow-up issues for further enhancements on this export command. So rather than trying to get everything in for this PR, I think it makes sense to extend that once we've decided what upstream changes we need in the Choco install command as well. Because one thing that Richie also mentioned was the concept of taking across whether or not a package is pinned. So when you do the export, include in the generated file whether that package is pinned to then pin it when you do the install as well from the packages.config file. Now, that to me suggested that maybe that's an additional option on the install command so that when you install it, you can immediately pin it as well. Because right now, that would be two operations. It would do the Choco install, and then it would do the Choco pin. But it doesn't make sense to have an additional pin option on the install command so it immediately pins it.
Right.
So there's lots of design discussions I think we need to have around that to firm that up and what we actually want.
So I've added a couple more things there onto the Chocolatey configuration. Starting to look into that section. So what I've seen is we created export command configuration, which is good. Following the format that's already there. Did the serializable, also really good. I don't know how far down this is. It's a bit of ways. Yeah, I think you just passed. Yeah, you just passed it.
I did.
Up a little.
No.
Let's see, nice.
Yeah,
maybe?
I saw that. It was here.
Yeah, there we go. So there's that. So that one we can simply resolve. There's really nothing to go wrong with that. So just making sure they do serializable. We created a bug before because we forgot to have serializable on something. So always good to check those things. Because we want that configuration to be usable.
Yep.
And then we have this next thing where we create the export command configuration. We actually set output file path.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see all the code at the moment, so I can't see what this is doing. So I asked if we're doing this in other places. So are we creating precedent here? Or is that following a precedent that's already set? So my immediate thing is to go back locally and look at Chocolatey configuration. See if we're doing that.
I think I would have copied that from somewhere.
Do that in a couple of places at the global level, but I'm wondering if inside of each of those commands we have any kind of thing that we're setting. Let's scroll down here.
Yeah, there's a couple at least. In the list command, we're specifying page size 25. Template properties in the new command has got template properties is set to a new dictionary.
Yeah, new dictionary, empty, doesn't have a value. Page list 25, though, that's a good place to have that argument for where we do have something. The others are there, they're setting a dictionary just because...
for reasons, yeah.
We don't want the error if it doesn't set. Page list 25, that's a good spot for that.
So to answer the comment there from Kim, it's the difference between a require request change. I think it was really just to so that they would flow through into the stream here. as opposed to doing a request for change. I think that's what Rob's intention was. So rather than doing a single review requesting changes as opposed to individual comments.
Yeah, so when we go to review changes, when I put my first comment and I chose add a single comment versus start review just so we can see it flow through. And then I would, so what Debbie is saying there. So if I did it the other way, when I clicked finish review on that last comment, which I come up here and I click request changes on, if I had changes that needed to be, things I thought needed to be talked about or addressed, Gary would get 1 email and not 25. But
I've also turned off email notifications. I don't do email notifications. I use Octobox, so I get a single pop-up in Octobox saying something happened on this PR or this issue. So I don't do email notifications anymore. Those flooded my inbox.
So at this point, we're in a pretty good setting to say, okay, we do see some things that need to be changed, right? And one of those is to explore taking the XML writer stuff and seeing if we could reuse the XML service or if we need to create something specific for that. And the intention here is so that we could actually write tests around this and have some object we can look at without ever writing to a file.
Yep.
And, what you find, unfortunately, is a lot of the .NET stuff was created long before people thought about that. Unit testing, like true unit testing, where I'm talking about this one thing, if I give it back something, so how does that react? They think about, there was probably a lot more thought onto integration testing, and when we talk about integration testing versus unit testing, this is where some folks will probably disagree with me again. That's fine. We're talking about in a unit, it's a class, right? Anything that it might be using, you could mock those things out. Unit testing, true unit testing, in my opinion, is a lot harder than integration testing. Integration testing is easy, but it's harder to maintain in a lot of ways. Depending on how you do your mocking, your unit testing can become hard to maintain if you have a very set of high cohesion between two things. Anytime you change one and it changes the other, you're breaking an element of solid, which is open-close principle, which is that O, right? You want low, maybe it's the other way around. I always forget the way the terms go, but it's either low or high cohesion, low coupling. Maybe that's what it is, high cohesion, low coupling. So, ignore me if I don't say it the right way. The heart's in the right place, but the words may not come out of my mouth correctly. So at this point, we're at where we're going to come up and we're going to ask, request changes. So here I would just say, this looks good. There are a couple of things to address. And, now, if Gary is a new person that was doing this, my comments might be, there might be a lot more stuff in here to kind of help him through this process. Because Gary is familiar with the code base, we've been working together. My comments, as you've seen here, are very much like, okay, this, what do you think about this? This, what do you think about this? And I'm kind of matter of fact with Gary, where if somebody's new, it's going to be a lot more, hey, let's kind of go through this. There's this thing, maybe check this out. Let me know what you think, right? And so it is very context sensitive on typically how we handle a request based on who comes in. It is also worth mentioning, going back on, is you'll see Chocolatey Choco be very meticulous about the way that we expect commits and everything. That's not the case on every single repository we have, right? There are, and this is maybe this is the way I subscribe things. There are things you want to be very meticulous on, and there are other things that you want to, it's a docs thing, right? If the doc is messed up, that's okay. You fix it in another commit. In here, this thing, we want it to kind of be as good as we can get it coming out the door with it, right? So we put a lot more effort into this repository versus another repository that may not require that same level of scrutiny.
No. So the interesting thing about all of this is that this is kind of then showing the diverse nature that you can get into with GitHub. So Manfred has now created a PR onto my PR branch to fix the typos that he's identified. So in theory, I can review the changes on my fork, which will then flow through into the PR that's submitted against Chocolatey Choco. So this is kind of open source for the win right here. So now what that will facilitate, based on what Rob's just said, is that if I do merge this in, I would then want to go back and rebase my PR branch to include Manfred's changes into my single commit. Now that then potentially breaks what I said before, which was that Manfred would be correctly attributed with that or not. So what I then do, and I started doing this on the stream on Friday, is I then use the concept of co-authoring that you can do on a commit message. So because I would then take out the work that Manfred did, I would then add in this specific commit message that then says co-authored by Manfred, and then he would be attributed correctly. So it kind of flows through at that point. So there are ways and means to continue the attribution when it's needed. So I've started doing this on my streams now, so that whenever I do a commit on my stream, whoever's in the chat room and whoever's been working with me, I will add the co-authored by onto every commit that goes in, so that, again, internet points, everyone loves them. It means you get additional commit messages and things. So there we go. So thank you for that, Manfred.
And we do that, at least I used to do that at the company I was at. The only thing I'll mention there is that does actually put their email address into the Git. So if somebody wanted to harvest that email address, they could.
So what
Kim
pointed out is that you can use the default no reply email address that comes from GitHub. So you don't have to put in an actual email address. You can just put in user.github.com and use their username. So it correctly attributes them, but it doesn't expose their email address, and exactly for that same reason. Yeah. So it's the default reply to here, for privacy. It actually spells it out in this article on doing just that, and it's I found it in this article, but I'm not seeing it now for reasons. Oh, for goodness sake. No reply. It actually shows you what that is. I can't find it for some reason, but anyway, it's some known format. There we go. Kim's just putting it into the chat room for me. So it's username at users.noreply@github.com. It's a correct email address, but it doesn't expose Kim's actual email address to the world, which is good for privacy.
Chocolatey.
Sorry. So I have some work to do, obviously, on getting this PR updated. So all of those points are valid. And I can get that work done, certainly. But hopefully, because we are coming up to a kind of a hard stop now at 10 o'clock for me anyway, I hope that this was useful and highlighting to people about the process that we go through, and it kind of goes away to explaining the overall process that we follow at Chocolatey, and to an extent, what we're now following on other open source projects that I work on, the likes of Cake. Oh, hold on. Am I still here?
I hear you, but then again, I hear you because of Skype.
Oh, he's back. Okay, so Mateus is saying we're back. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I don't know what's going on in the stream. But it's so. Hopefully this is useful, and hopefully there'll be more of these kind of things. Rob and I did speak about potentially doing some more shared pairing sessions on certain things. So those could certainly be future topics for Twitch streams in the future. And in terms of what I'll be working on next, I have an idea for something I want to build. I don't know how to build it yet. I may need to speak to my friendly neighborhood Azure MVP, also known as Mateus, or dev lead in the chat room, because I want to do something in Azure and I've got no idea how to do it. So I might have to get Matthias on the stream again to show me how to do things in there. So that could be interesting if I find the cycles to do that. So for now, I want to thank Rob for coming on the stream. So I appreciate him coming and spending some time with us today. Like I say, I hope it's been useful. And apologies again about the network outage there. I'll say I'll look into it, but I've got no idea what happened. So I'm just going to hope it doesn't happen again and leave it at that. So for now, I'm going to say goodnight, and we'll see you all on the internet later. Thank you very much. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.